What's happening, guys? I'm back again with another video. Recently I've been thinking about the media, and I just want you to ask yourself a very basic question. Why are the media not reporting on all the protests, all the anti-lockdown protests, and definitely about all of the COVID pass, vaccine passport protests around the world, as there are many? All you need to do is look around the world at France, Italy, Germany, Australia, and right here in the UK, where we've had nearly 1 million people out in the streets. But if you were to look at the papers and look into the TV news, there's virtually radio silence. Not a peep about these protests. Nothing. The only thing you hear about it is when a small size group, it's small in comparison to the size of the protests, when a small group of people break off and try and break into the ITV studio. That's the only time you hear anything about these protests that are going on in the UK or in any other country for that matter. And I've been wondering why. And to me, the reason why, they're keeping these protests under wraps, for one simple reason: they need to maintain a narrative that these protests are by a very small minority of people, which they are not. Like I said, just here in the UK, we had nearly 1 million people, if not maybe more than that, in the streets in the last few weeks. If you look into France, huge, vast crowds, hundreds of thousands of people out, and much smaller protests around Paris, sit-ins, etc. If you look on the screen right now, that's what you'll be seeing. They're protesting the Green Pass. That's their version of the Vax Pass over in France, and they're doing things like sit-ins against this, because over there you need this digital ID, because let's face it, that's exactly what it is, a digital ID, just to go and have a drink, to get a coffee, to buy some bread, to eat in a restaurant. It's even more ridiculous than it is over here. The reason for this media blackout on these protests around the world and all over the UK is because they need to maintain the illusion that the majority of the people in this country not only support the measures, but in fact believe that the government didn't go far enough in these measures, that we should have locked down harder, faster, and for longer than we actually did, as that's the narrative that the mainstream media are constantly trying to push. But the fact of the matter is, this theatre, this fake news is breaking down. We can see it all around us. People have given up on this fear mongering, this doom mongering around the country. They're wise to it now. They see it and they've had enough. And that's why you're seeing people pushing back all around the world. Yet another reason why the media organisations around the world, and in this country in particular, won't mention anything about the protests is because, let's face it, these people are not there to inform you. They're not there to give you the news. They are there to be stenographers for the powerful, because that's exactly what they are. If the elites in this country, the globalists around the world, are to push through these digital IDs, because that's exactly what they are. They're digital IDs. If they are to be pushed through as quickly as possible, there can't be any breakdown in the narrative that the majority of people are all for this. They are not. The majority of people are dead against it. And this has been a red line for many, many freedom-loving people around the country, around the UK, around the world, especially in the United States, where, let's face it, there are certain states where this is just not going to fly at all. no matter what they do, and they're gonna have a hell of a fight on their hands over there. And they need to make it. They need to make the more libertarian-minded people in our country and in other countries in Europe feel like they're in the minority. And they try to do this by cutting off lines of communication. If you can't see it, then it doesn't exist. But the fact of the matter is, social media exists. In this day and age, especially people of my generation and younger, don't watch much TV news anyway. And we get most of our news from social media, reliable news sources on things like people like Joe Rogan, and Breaking Points. It goes as far as to say Tucker Carlson, because he is really big on the internet actually. So unfortunately, he is mainstream media, he is controlled media, but he is still a huge presence online when it comes to internet news sources. TYT, hate those guys, but they are another huge presence when it comes to online news organisations. And then you have the more serious, what I would call the broadsheet journalists of the internet. So you've got like Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, Aaron Mate, Kim Iverson, Edward Snowden, yeah, people like that. So there's no trust in the controlled media anymore. I don't believe them. I feel the vast majority of the people in this country don't believe anything they say, especially when we can see through the propaganda that they push out. It's so transparent, and it makes it so obvious when you just scroll through your phone and you see nearly 1 million people marching through London, hundreds of thousands of people in Paris, Rome, and in Australia, Auckland, and the lot. It makes people realise and think to themselves, hey, wait a minute, this should be a huge news story, but for whatever reason, they're not reporting it. Why is that? I wonder why. Maybe it's because they don't want us to know that there's this much pushback to these digital IDs. Well, that's exactly what it is. They're trying to suppress the noise that's being made. They're trying to make it seem like there is no opposition to these insane rules. They're trying to make it seem like anyone who speaks out against the digital IDs is in the minority, and they're probably an unbalanced conspiracy theorist. You know, all the type of slurs that they throw out. It's utterly pathetic. It's very revealing of these people, of these news organisations, and what their priorities are. And it's made it very clear to me that I'm right to not trust anything they say. I never will trust anything they say. I've not believed anything that's come out of the mainstream media since they told us Iraq had weapons of mass destruction that could hit the UK in 45 minutes. I was a young boy when they tried to sell us that load of nonsense, and even at that young age I saw through it. And let's face it, everyone who called that out was right, just like everyone who's calling out these digital IDs is also right. Anyway guys, that's just my thought on the situation. If you've got a perspective on it, I would really like to hear it, so leave your comments below. And also, I'd really like you to help me out with the algorithm. So if you could give me a like, a comment, and a share, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you on the next one.